name's Abbie. I'm a third year diagnostic radiography student at the University of Leeds, and I'm also pitch captain for the University of Leeds Women's Rugby Union Club, and I've been playing for them since 2018. I came up from home, which is in Kent, and I'm now based at the University of Leeds. I also play for Harrogate in the Championship North Division 1, and I've had 18 months of experience playing at Darlington Modern Park Premiership Club.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm also at Leeds University. I'm the club secretary there. I'm currently studying politics in my third year. This is my 6th season, and originally before university I was at Sheffield.
Hi, yeah, I'm Juanita. I used to go to Exeter University, started playing at uni in 2015, continued playing up until I graduated, and I was the club captain there for a year. Then I started playing at Hackney, I think, in 2019. I haven't had much time playing there, obviously, because of COVID, but yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Lamise. I went to Anglia Ruskin University from 2011 to 2013, and I then moved to London and started playing rugby at Hackney from 2015, where I was captain for 3 years, and I'm currently an SEN teacher in London.
Last but not least then.
Hi, my name's Anne, and I started playing rugby in university. I went to City University to do a master's and played as part of a team called Lil Babbers. And then I joined Hackney Rugby Club in 2019. So I've been playing for like a year, and then COVID happened. I'm currently working as a speech and language therapist, and I also run a podcast called Black Girls Rap.
Nice. Thank you so much, girls. So I guess the first question is, how has your year been? COVID, no rugby. How did you stay connected to the game? What have you been up to?
So it's been a pretty rough year. Obviously not getting out there playing rugby. I'm not sure I can even pass a ball at this point, or tackle, or do any of the rugby skills. I'm very unfit, but I feel like I've been trying to keep up with rugby via watching, especially women's Prem games, trying to follow that, and obviously some of the men's games as well. That's really how I've been trying to keep up to date and kind of keep up with rugby. That's all we've got at this point. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, is there anyone who's able to train now, or who's able to keep up that motivation? Is anyone amongst you who kind of kept up with the trainings throughout this time? No shame here, I haven't either.
I did couch to 5K in the first lockdown because I wanted to become a super athlete, and then I don't know, then they reopened pubs, and then we had another lockdown, and I think I lost every ounce of fitness that I had. So I did meet up with Juanita a couple of days ago, and we did some passing and one-to-one drills. It was interesting because it's weird because it's things that we can do and could normally do, but it was just very weird because we haven't done it in so long. It's not part of our nature anymore. She passed the ball to me and it hit me right in the chest, and I nearly cried, and I was just like, who have I become? This is not me.
Maybe it's for the best. We get to experience what it was like to first play rugby, isn't it, when we go back after all this time?
Yeah, that's definitely what it felt like. I was like, do I know how to do this anymore? But I've been trying to keep up with that kind of feel, because my favorite thing about rugby was always the people that I got to meet, and you get to meet a real mix of people from different backgrounds and having different jobs and everything. So I started the podcast in the middle of the first lockdown, and I found that was a really nice way to kind of keep up to date with what is happening in rugby, which wasn't very much at the time, but to also meet different players from different teams to kind of get people's experiences. And that was my kind of way of keeping in touch with rugby and getting to meet new people.
And you've certainly done some great job on that. What was your highlight in those podcasts? What was the best one?
Oh, I think that's a great question. I think It might be. So it was when the Island campaign came out and they used models instead of actual rugby players for the female kit. And I had Simi Pam, Zainab, Alama, and Alana Sigli Grant on the episode, and we were talking about it. And it was just really nice to have just three strong women. I think Jessie was on that one as well. I can't remember. But it was just so nice to have a group of strong women together. We all love rugby, we all have similar backgrounds, just talking about it, and we're all quite far apart geographically, but we're all very similar as people. And it was just, I think that was one of my favorite episodes, because it was a nice response to something that was happening during lockdown, and yeah, kind of showed the sexism in the game at times. But it was just so nice to talk about.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And what about you girls, Abbie and Maddie? You're still in uni, and obviously I've seen some great stuff from your uni and trying to keep the team together through online things. But what was the highlight? I guess, how did you stay connected?
Yeah, I guess that's a challenge. When you're in uni, obviously every year we have the turnover of certain girls leaving. So we really needed to keep everything amped up to make sure we were getting good freshers, because obviously number of freshers, because obviously membership's so important to clubs that aren't that big, and yeah, so we've done all sorts this year. We had a booklet for people to do over the first lockdown, which had all sorts of drills and self-care stuff like that. We're currently getting our coach to publish every Sunday one-on-one drills you can do, either with someone in your house, because we have a lot of rugby houses, or that you can do by yourself, which admittedly I'm not keeping up with as much as I'd like. But yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff like that. And then we've been doing Ready for Rugby, which, Abbie, I don't know if you want to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say my highlight has been organising Ready for Rugby. So back in October, November time, before the November lockdown, well, more September, October, we were able to run Ready for Rugby, and we had such a array of girls that really wanted to get involved. So it was my responsibility to organise about 4 teams of 15 to 20 girls, and this is when we could all play organised sport, and we were able to go to the rugby pitches and do internal tournaments of Ready for Rugby. And we did that every Wednesday and tried to recreate that game environment. Try to take kit and have everybody get changed into their kit on the pitch, whilst that is a bit annoying, but it was definitely a highlight for me, just bringing all the girls together. And then we managed to get our University Rugby Club base, our home ground, to open up the bar, so we were able to do match pints afterwards as well. So that was just a real nice sort of sense of normality in such an unprecedented time. And then unfortunately, since the end of November, December, it's all been shut, and then we obviously went straight into the January lockdown after Christmas. We haven't actually done that much in these 3 months of 2021, but with the announcement of being able to go back to rugby at the end of the month, we're all very much excited, and I think very geared up, ready to go and get back to the training grounds.
Firstly, I'm actually really grateful that I'm not captain during this time, because it looks like it required a lot of admin and a lot of encouragement and positivity. I think it's been really tough to keep people interested in coming back to rugby, but we have our WhatsApp groups. We have a lot of people within our club, men included, who have been offering training sessions and stretching sessions to kind of keep everybody's body limber and ready to go. So that's been really helpful. We've set a lot of Zooms up during the Christmas period, because a lot of people couldn't go back home for Christmas. So a few of us got on to Zoom and just tried to keep people as happy and as positive as possible. But now that we're in a space where we can meet up one-to-one, it is a lot more easier to reach out to those people who might be suffering a bit more with loneliness and isolation during this time. So yeah, those are a few things that we are doing that I think are really good. I think personally, I probably would have tried to maybe orchestrate more one-to-one sessions a bit earlier on. And yeah, because it's a tough one, because everyone's like, I'm still working, but there are still people who are working from home, and it's like everyone is kind of doing a different thing. We have a lot of nurses and doctors in our group as well, so it is quite tricky to sometimes get everybody available for the same time to do like a Zoom quiz or something like that. So yeah.
How do you feel about the support and the connection that you had with the men's team in your uni years? And again, we have all of you are from sort of different generations of that, and I feel that there was a sense of development in this and that it's improved over the years, certainly in my time in uni. But I wonder how your experiences were and how you felt about being that female athlete.
So I was at uni from 2011, well, from 2010 to 2013, but I played rugby from 2011 to 2013. And the men were not great to us. Like, we were kind of an accessory team to them. They didn't really take us seriously. They found it quite disrespectful that we also had Wednesday off to go and play games, because that was their day, and you know, they needed the coach, they needed the funds, and our university just couldn't really support having a men's and a women's team at the same time, but they tried to do the best that they could. And I found that the men they weren't really keen on us sharing the same space as them during our training on Monday nights. But when we were all in the club together on Wednesday, they were more than happy to get with all of us. So it was like a really weird dynamic where you kind of, like, as someone who was just kind of watching it, I was just like, this is so bizarre. I can't believe one minute they hate us and next minute they just can't get their hands off of us. And so it was a really, really like toxic environment whilst I was at uni. But even I still kept in contact with some of the girls who were first years when I was a third year, and over the years as I'd left, the university had become a bit more supportive, and you know, things became a lot more segregated between the men and the women to try and foster as much development in those teams independently, and it seemed positive once I was gone. So yeah.
Did you feel that it was driven by the university or by the students, or both maybe?
I think some aspects were driven by the university, because in the years that I was there, the student union was run by male students more so than female. And I think just as I was leaving, a girl was appointed in like the head student union role. I can't remember what it's called, but it kind of changed the dynamic slightly, and I think she was trying to change the focus. So yeah, not so much the uni as the student union itself. Yeah,
that's great. And what about the others? Anyone has any stories to tell?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Exeter, I think the support from the uni, or the athletic union, that's what we have, was we had a lot of support from them for the women's team, but when I first joined, it wasn't always that way. There was definitely a divide between what the men got and what the women got, but there was such a huge improvement throughout the 4 years that I was at uni, because I don't know if it was because the women's team were performing really well, but they were like, we were winning, you know, bucks, and the more that we won and the better that we did, the more investment that we got from our athletic union, which was obviously amazing. But there were still some things, especially what Lamese were talking about when it came to sharing facilities and who got priority for that, and for certain, like, you know, coaches, and or how we'd get to you know, very far away games. So if both the boys and the girls were having games that were like maybe in Edinburgh or something, the boys might fly and the girls will take coach. So there were those kinds of, you know, differences. But I think the improvement over the 4 years that I was at uni was it was actually quite incredible. I think it became, I wouldn't say we're equal, obviously, but you know, we definitely got quite close to it. I don't know what it's like now, but yeah, we definitely got quite a bit of support from our AU. But I think also Exeter really did invest really heavily in rugby though, because I think in the Southwest, it's a rugby area. We did well, and there were links to the Exeter Chiefs Premiership team as well. So there was a lot of money and investment being fed into that. But yeah, I thought it was quite good at the end.
That's good to hear. Certainly good to hear that there was an improvement there. And what about you girls at Leeds? You know what it's like there?
You can go, Maddie, if you want.
Okay, thanks. Well, we share a head of rugby, Pete. He's a great man, and he's worked very hard to make sure that we've had equal resources this year in the last couple of years. I've only been involved in committee 2 years, so I won't be able to comment on our first year, my freshers. But yeah, I think what I've actually found is that while Pete will treat us with respect as like the head of rugby, and we also have a sports rep that if he represents all the clubs to the union, basically, he is also a rugby player, and I feel like we've been treated quite well because we've had those connections and been able to talk to them about it, and they understand that we all just want to play rugby. But I've noticed that it tends to be those outside of our bubble of so I don't know if you want to talk about this more, Abbie. So last year, for the first time, we got to play our varsity at Headingley Stadium, which is the first time ever, because it had always been the men's that play at Headingley Stadium. That was like the final for varsity, and we'd been playing at our normal training grounds. So it was the first year ever that we got to play. And Abbie, I don't know if you want to talk about more what happened.
Yeah, so traditionally, so Leeds, I know what you were saying, Juanita, but Leeds isn't very big for rugby union. It's a league. It's big for league, but it's not too big for rugby union. So, men's rugby union, that is. So then introducing women's rugby union, obviously, it wasn't an equal standard. And forever, the men have been playing in the Emerald Headingley Stadium, which is, our big stadium up here, has got a very big capacity. And we would play at our local grounds, and with hardly any people watching, and it wasn't a big day. Whereas in the October 2019, we did get to play in the stadium, and it was an incredible day. But whilst it was incredible, there was a few things that happened, wasn't there, Maddie, in the run-up by people outside of our bubble, as she mentioned, that the current committee, and all of the members of Blue Ruff that worked so hard to get us to that point, because every year you build, every year it grows, and that we get more and more we get closer to getting equal with the men. But whilst everybody at uni understands, and the university union and everything is brilliant, it was outside of our bubble. And I remember the night before, we got to go and visit the stadium, we got to go and see where we were going to play. All the girls were hyped, as you can imagine. We were all absolutely ecstatic. And I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody said to us, who was in charge, who was involved with the stadium, if the weather's bad and only one game can go ahead, it won't be your game. And it was like all of the girls were, I just remember our faces just completely dropping, because the weather forecast wasn't great for the next day, and it is the north of England and it does rain a lot. And yeah, we got told in no uncertain terms that it wouldn't be our game that went ahead. And it was horrific, to be honest. It was such a horrible feeling. Luckily, we did get to go ahead, but we weren't allowed to play a full game. We were only allowed to play 35-minute halves. And that was the reason for that, was because there was not enough time for the men to go onto the pitch and warm up. Despite, they could have moved some things around, but we didn't. And this was last year. This was 2019, to be fair, October 2019. And I would hope that if we were to play in October 2020, with such a success of the day in October 2019, and the weather did hold up for us, and we did win, the men did lose, we did win, and it was pretty incredible. I would like to think that if we were lucky enough to play this year, or even, if COVID didn't happen, it would be different. But from the experience that I have had, the people outside of our bubble weren't particularly welcoming to the fact that we were playing there. Whilst Pete, he's a great man, and he did get to say something to the women at the end when we were all a bit miffed, I think is the word. Yeah, it just was a bit strange to see if someone outside of our bubble acting in such a way. Yeah.
I guess though, hopefully that bubble is continuously growing, and the more we can do, the more it kind of spreads, and hopefully that will change. I mean, it's great to hear that you had a good experience despite all the
despite the challenges, and I think winning just made that icing on the cake, wasn't it? It was such an incredible day. It's a day I won't forget for a very long time.
That's fantastic to hear. And you, Anne, you played for a team that was not established as much as the other girls' teams were, and there was no club per se. So there was quite an interesting, unique structure there. How did you feel about, playing and how you were supported through that time?
I think I found it quite strange. To be fair, like, it was a great team full of like great girls, but I think my idea, because I played a bit of netball during my undergrad, so I kind of had an idea of like what a sports team like culture was about. So I think I was expecting something similar, but because it was such a small team made up of like loads of different unis, we didn't have that at all. So we didn't have a chance. I don't think we were in a proper league, so we would only like do sevens tournaments and varsity and things like that, so we didn't get a chance to play as much. So I feel like we didn't really get a chance to prove to people that like we want to play rugby, we're serious about rugby, and we can play. And like, so I was at City, and I think they've got 2 boys teams there, and all the guys were like really actually really supportive and really nice about it, and like would offer to like do training sessions and help us out in any way that they could. But I think because so I know when I started from City, that was part of Little Babbas, I think there was like 40 girls altogether, but from City there was like 7 or 8 of us, and a lot of us were like nursing students or healthcare students, so couldn't devote every Wednesday a week, which was really like for games and for training, because we would have placement or we'd have something else. So it was quite difficult to kind of establish ourselves as like a women's rugby team. And I don't know if I answered your question, but it was quite strange because it just wasn't as like cemented into like the sports team schedule of like our uni. But I know for varsity, our captain at the time managed to like get us, like, she was on the poster for varsity, which was quite a big deal because we'd never had like, apparently there'd never been like women's rugby like feature for varsity, and we were getting more and more attention, but I think it just got really difficult to build because it was such a small group of us from City. And yeah, and I think being part of a healthcare course, because City is quite big for healthcare courses, there is that issue with placements and timings and being able to fully commit like the times that are set out to play rugby, so it's harder to get established as players and as a team as well. Yeah, kind of gone back and forth with that.
No, but I think you made a really valid point in that it's a unique type of struggle in a university where sports is not a main focus for the university. There's loads, and luckily I'm pleased to hear that in most of yours it's been quite focused as a general department within the university. So dedicating Wednesday afternoons would be a lot easier because the whole university is behind it. So I guess yours was, and actually mine as well, was very similar. We didn't have that structure, so having to work everything around it and accommodate games on a Wednesday or any other day really was a lot bigger challenge, I felt, although it's improving. And I guess that brings me to my next question as to what do you think could have been done better or different, or could be done better or different in the future to improve their experience for female rugby players or female athletes in university?
So I'm just talking because my mic's already on. I'm thinking maybe from like healthcare course perspective, which is quite niche. Actually, Abbie, you're a radiography student, so you get it. But like, so it's quite niche because I know in terms of, like you said, like the way the course is set out, and a lot of courses have Wednesday afternoon off, but we didn't because we had placement and because I was doing a master's, was quite condensed, and there wasn't really that onus on fitness and being part of a team and doing that, when actually I think if you are a studying clinician and you are looking to do that, I think doing something like rugby or having the opportunity to be part of a team is like, it's amazing for your mental health. And like, I'm quite blessed that like, even though I wasn't able to like figure out a way for me to consistently play with Little Babbers and with City, managed to get me to Hackney because they trained in the evenings and it fit my schedule more, and I was able to find that in my life, which I'm really grateful for. But I think universities need to, across all courses, because I think there is like student unions do understand the importance of sports, but I think a lot of the time healthcare courses and some courses that require maybe longer hours or more placements or more in-person things kind of forget that that is a thing, and like that should be more implemented, I think, within the university perspective.
No, I was going to say I completely agree. Coming from, I'm quite a recent person to talk to about this sort of issue. I started my degree in 2018, and luckily for me, every Wednesday afternoon, whilst I was at university doing my academic work, my lectures and everything, we did get off, and so I did find, very similar to you, Anne, that I could attend things on a Wednesday afternoon whilst I was doing my lectures, and it would be, the onus would be on me to do that. However, the issue did become when I would attend placement, because you don't get Wednesday afternoons off, you work shift patterns, and it is really tough. I'm really lucky that I had foreseen that, and I had, because I was so active in the sport in the time. 2018 was a big rugby year for me, so just personally, so I felt that I needed to express that to the people that were in charge of me at placement. And I said, in no uncertain terms, I think I was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, and I said, I want to go to play rugby, I don't want to be here on a Wednesday afternoon. And I then missed 5 hours of placement every Wednesday in my first year, and it was on me to make that up in the summer, and it was the decision that I made. But that time wasn't forgiven. That time was, okay, well, that's your choice, you're going to have to make all that time up. And I did have a lot of hours to make up so that I could continue being part of a club that I loved and being part of a sport that I really enjoyed. But I don't think I would have been able to get through my degree, now being at the latter end of my third year, without rugby, without that relief, without that, social and physical relief. I think, if anything, this year has really highlighted it, with the fact that we haven't been able to play. It's been hard enough for 8 months, let alone 3 years. So I think I completely agree. Within the healthcare side of things, they're often treated as an extension to university courses, and people do forget that they exist and that we work really, really hard and we have a lot of placement to do. So having any improvement with rugby specifically, but I'm sure it's the same for other sports as well, with placement students would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I can't really talk from a a healthcare point of view, because I did international relations and nothing anywhere is hard. But I feel like my uni did a pretty good job of accommodating extracurricular activities in general. So when at the beginning of the academic year, you get your timetables, and you can actually apply or like put on your, I don't know what to call it, but put on the database that you'd want Wednesday afternoons off. And everyone knows that Wednesday afternoons is dedicated to playing games and sport and all of that kind of stuff. So my uni really did value extracurricular activities. So that was great, just from kind of overarching perspective, but also the athletic union was very, very what's the word, kind of supportive when we had deadlines and loads of work, and for students that couldn't come to trainings and stuff, especially my rugby club as well. Everyone was really, really supportive. You could go to gym sessions earlier or later, as long as you ask. You could do extra sessions outside of the normal training sessions. There were so many opportunities for us to you know, help balance our sport and our academics. I probably didn't do that well while I was there, but there was the opportunity to do that, which I thought, I think people, well, my teammates made really good use of as well, especially like even physio, even if it wasn't actually training, getting that physio support as well outside of normal hours was also something that wasn't uncommon as well. So there was like a lot of support from the university itself, but I think again it's just because I think it's just Exeter culture to really value extracurricular activities. I don't want to, you know, just like big up my uni, but I just want to say, like in that respect, like I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, I remember when we first had our freshers fair, that there were a lot of sports and hobbies and things on offer for people to be invited to, but the men's rugby and the women's rugby were like in separate places. So the men's rugby stall was more accessible than the women's. And I just didn't really understand why they weren't together, because they were the same thing. And so I think having that kind of cohesive understanding and nature to their fair would also help kind of put it on the map a bit more for people who are around. And I forgot I was actually treasurer at uni for a year. I just remembered like how impossible it was to get funding from the university to fund things like buses and kit, because I think we had the same kit for the like 6 or 7 years, and there were loads of numbers missing, so it was really difficult to kind of function like just as a team. Just to get to a game was a huge hurdle on its own. So I think it would be really good if they were like had the foresight to manage 2 teams functioning on the same day from the same sport, because we shared a few coaches as well, so we had to like divvy up who was going where, and yeah, it was just poorly managed, and you had to go through a really like long process to get any money for anything, so yeah, just to make those things a bit easier, it would have been nice. Yeah,
it reminds me of November 2019. We had so we were in the cup, our first team, and we had to get to Stirling in Scotland, which is like a 6-hour coach journey. Like it's a lot, and we just couldn't afford it because it was like $2,000 to get there and back, and obviously that's like a significant portion of our budget. So we had to fundraise it all, and we did, and it was great, and it was a lot of work, but we did it. But it did just make me think at the time that the men's don't have to pay for all their coaches, whereas we do. And
yeah,
because I think the thing is that especially the way we get members is encouraging freshers to join that often haven't played before, and we like to keep the club as inclusive as possible, so our membership isn't particularly high, and obviously like a big part of our funding comes from our membership, and I think like an advantage that, you know, it's just the way it's happened because the men's games existed for a lot longer, is that the men's have significantly more freshers coming in every year that usually have played before and are able to charge like 3 times the amount that we do, without anyone blinking. You know, they all just go, oh, that's a normal rate because that's how much they pay at club rugby or something. So it's just small things that have like affected our funding and our opportunities, because we've naturally tried to make everything more inclusive and we're trying to encourage membership, whereas I don't think the men's university team will ever have to struggle for members. I think this year they had 150 freshers, or I think we had 30 maybe, yeah, possibly. I mean, we did pretty well this year. We're on like 90 members total, but obviously like 90 members total in comparison to 150 freshers for the men's, and they're charging 3 times our membership, is like a significant difference in funding, which means that we have to like the committee often has to work significantly harder to get opportunities to the club that the men's don't need to think about, and so yeah, I think it's just small stuff like you know, the amount of hours we had to put into that fundraiser. You know, it took a toll when we were still doing all our academics and stuff.
I've got one last question for you all, which I always ask at the end of these elated conversations, and that is, what is the one thing that you would tell future players? Why should they play at university?
I would say that if you want to make if you want to meet your best friends in the whole entire world, like in terms of like longevity, play sport, play rugby at university. There's nothing that brings people closer than putting your body on the line for each other for 80 minutes, week in, week out, training together. Like that is what really forges friendships, and you have them for, you know, hopefully for as long as you're alive. Most of my best friends are from playing rugby at university, and we're still just as close. So I'd say if you're looking for friendship, and yeah, you'll definitely find it in a rugby team, and you'll come across people that you would have never crossed paths with if you play rugby, for sure.
I think as well, it's like you're starting university, you don't really know anybody, you probably are still in halls, and you can have those relationships with people, but I didn't get a space in halls, so I actually found that it was like a perfect way to kind of throw myself into something that made me busy and gave me something else to do other than my degree, which was boring. And it was fun to have, it was like nice to have something fun to do. I liked that it took 2 days out of my week, and maybe even a few more with like players' house parties and birthdays and different events that you had to go to. So it just instantly kind of gives you the life you already had back at home. It already gives you that sense of community in a place that can be quite isolating. So it was the best decision I think I ever made. And like I still have those really solid friendships now, like 10 years later. Because yeah, you're meeting somebody in your growth phase, so you're more likely to maintain that relationship than friendships that you make maybe in primary or secondary school. So I think it's really important for your future to start. Yeah.
I would say it's a great way to relieve stress, and like I really enjoy rugby because it's not the sort of sport where you don't have to necessarily be the fastest, you don't have to be the fittest, you don't have to be the skinniest, like anyone can do it, and it's a great way to just relieve stress and to meet people and to do something different. Because yeah, I'm the same in that, like, I enjoyed doing my masters, but it was always really nice to go and like play rugby and meet people that aren't on my course and meet people that are doing stuff that's completely different and have that thing in common as well. So I would just say do it. Like the benefits definitely outweigh any risks. You won't injure yourself as well. No one ever injures themselves in rugby as well. So I think don't worry about that.
I think I'd say coming to university, I think a lot of people do come straight from school. Not everybody, but I think a lot of people do. And I think at the age of 18, 19, you're extremely insecure in yourself. And I've never been part of a group of people that are more inclusive than rugby teams. And that's not just the Leeds University rugby team, that's every single rugby team I've ever played for has been entirely inclusive in every single aspect. And it gives you a couple of hours a week, if not more, to be surrounded by 30 odd girls that just want to play sport and just want to be themselves. And I think coupling that with putting your body on the line for them gives you such a sense of security and such a sense of home away from home a lot of the time that is just indescribable and invaluable at university. Yeah, and so I think that's why it forges them friendships for such a long time. So do it.
What about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I completely agree with what everyone said. I think always go to the socials. They're always brilliant. Shout out to our social secretaries. And yeah, I think that is the thing, is that I was one of the insecure 18-year-olds that's never been particularly athletic or anything. And it's so great because rugby does have a place for literally everyone. Like, you can be 5 foot and weigh like 6 stone, or you can be like 6 foot, or you can weigh like 18 stone, and you'll still have a place. And I think it's brilliant because yeah, there's nothing to like. I feel like a lot of sports emphasize a certain body image, or like, you just really want to get really, really fast or really, really strong, but you can really tailor it to you. And I think it gave me so much more confidence to just keep being strong for me and for my team, because also I find it hard to motivate myself with exercise. And knowing that I was like making myself better and stronger to help the team was like a massive motivator for me. And yeah, so it's a great way to make friends and get yourself like feeling good physically and mentally. So yeah, would recommend.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, girls, for joining us today. It's been great hearing your experiences. So thank you so much again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everyone.